The Knicks continue to add depth to this roster. According to the latest reports, the Knicks have used their final two-way spot to add Jacob Toppin to the roster. We're going to break down these latest reports and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks signed Jacob Toppin with their final two-way roster spot. If you were paying attention during Summer League, you were obviously captivated by Tyler Kolek. You were impressed during times for Pacome Dadier. You were watching Ariel Huckaporty. But during the early stages of Summer League, Jacob Toppin was very impressive. It's unfortunate that he went down with an injury during Summer League, so he wasn't active throughout the whole thing. But during the moments he was impressive. His game looked better. He was getting into the paint a lot easier. He looked stronger. He was getting into his spot a lot easier as well, too. The mid-range looks good. I liked what I saw from Jacob Toppin. So the Knicks, using their final two-way roster spot to sign him, it's not surprising to me. And honestly, I'm happy to see it. Toppin deserves this opportunity. Shout out to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype for giving us the following information. According to him, the Knicks forward Jacob Toppin has signed his two-way qualifying offer. Toppin fills the final two-way spot for the Knicks. A lot of time when Jacob Toppin gets talked about, we obviously speak about his brother Obi, who the Knicks drafted and then traded away to the Indiana Pacers. And every time that gets brought up, it seems like that Jacob Toppin doesn't get the respect that he actually deserves. If you watch him, watch his game, and watch his development from where he was to where he is right now, you will be impressed with this kid as well, too. And if I do say so myself, on defense, in my opinion, I think he's better than Obi Toppin. And that's just me watching him in the G League, watching him in some games when he's playing for the Knicks during garbage time or during preseason, and seeing this kid actually going up and down, up the floor, and getting in there on defense. He's doing things that I didn't see Obi Toppin do. Now, maybe it's a small sample size, but it's still good to see. And honestly, if he's doing that on defense, it's even more of a chance that Tom Thibodeau might play him. Because if you're good on defense and you're also good on offense, Jacob Toppin getting better on offense as well, too, as I mentioned. That is good things for him and his future on this Knicks team, especially under our head coach in Tom Thibodeau. If you're playing good defense and you can also score as well, too, you are going to see time on this team. Only thing you have to do is to continue to develop and prove yourself. And if you do that, you will get called up. Now, look, last season, we had a lot of injuries to deal with. So maybe the amount of call-ups we did last year will not match the amount we do this year. But still, what it says is the Knicks are not afraid to give anybody an opportunity, especially when we need it. That's why when you're in the G League, you have an opportunity potentially to play for the Knicks during the regular season. You knowing that is going to make you have your A game each and every game that you play. And that's exactly what the Knicks want to see. Jacob Toppin is likely going to see a lot of time next year in the G League, and that's not a problem. He's going to continue to get better, continue to develop, and who knows, if the Knicks have to deal with some type of injury and he needs to get the call-up, maybe he does, and he impresses a lot of people during his time. And if he does that, that can mean a lot moving forward for him and a roster spot, maybe an even more permanent roster spot on this Knicks team. We don't know exactly what the Knicks could potentially do, but like everybody else has the opportunity, you can turn a two-way contract into a standard NBA deal. With everybody knowing that, the opportunity is right there for the taking. We saw it for a number of players already. Deuce McBride went to the G League and then slowly but surely crawled his way up, and now he's a consistent player off of our bench. If he can do it, anybody in the G League can do it too. But let's break down the Knicks roster for next season and let you know where it stands as of right now. Shout out to Ian Bagley for giving us this following information as well, too. Now that the Knicks have announced that they've signed Jacob Toppin to their final two-way contract, they now have a maximum of 3 players on two-way deals. Those players are Jacob Toppin, Ariel Huckaporty, and Kevin McCullough Jr. If you take a look at the rest of the Knicks roster, you obviously have the starting five: Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. Off the bench, you're going to have Dante DiVincenzo, Miles McBride, Josh Hart, Precious Achiuwa, and Jericho Sims. Now, Jericho Sims may not be that backup. He may be somebody that doesn't see any time. Precious Achiuwa might be the backup 5. Josh Hart may be the backup 4, and so on and so forth. Until we get to the trade deadline, make even more moves and get the players that we absolutely need on this roster. But until then, the Knicks are going to continue to juggle players in and out until we can get the roster that we need set. And if that means playing Josh Hart out of position or playing Precious Achiuwa out of position, we are absolutely going to do that. It may not be something that we want to do, but clearly, if we have to do it and Thibs is forced to do it, we are going to go in that direction. But let's continue here. Going through the Knicks roster even further, more of their depth here. Tyler Kolek, the breakout second-round pick that the Knicks gave the most guaranteed money ever in NBA history to, $6.6 million. He's on the Knicks roster. We don't know if he's going to see time because, as you see right next to him, you have Cam Payne. Then you have Pacome Dadier, the Knicks' first-round pick in this year's draft. You have Keita Bates-Diop, the additional player that the Knicks got in the finalized Mikal Bridges deal. And as I mentioned before, a player on one of those two-way contracts as we speak is Ariel Huckaporty, another second-round pick from the Knicks in this year's draft. As of right now, that's the Knicks' full roster. I do want to mention the Knicks still have an open roster spot remaining. They still have the MLE remaining. They can utilize that to get another player of impact on this team that can help us get better moving forward into next season. So we still have that option on the table, and we're likely going to use it. And the reason I mentioned that is because, again, we're looking at the trade deadline. That's where we're going to make some more major moves. The only way to do that is to have assets available at that point in time. We obviously have those protected picks. We have Achiuwa. He waived his no-trade clause. He's on a one-year contract worth $6 million. And then if we use the MLE to sign another player, that's another piece that we can utilize at the trade deadline to make more moves. It makes the most sense for everything right now for what the Knicks want to do today and moving forward by using that MLE to get an additional player on this team. As you can see here, this is the Knicks roster as of right now. And even though the primary 9 are locked in, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, Miles McBride, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and in my opinion, Precious Achiuwa. Those are the 9 players you're likely going to see. Jericho Sims, you're not going to see him at this point in time. And unless the rotation opens up to a 10-man, you're not going to see Tyler Kolek. And Cam Payne is likely going to be situational. Those are going to be your 9 unless something happens and somebody during training camp takes somebody else's spot. Barring any of that, those are the 9 you're going to see. But again, you still get somebody else on this roster by using the MLE. Insurance is needed. And if we just look at last season, you'll see why it's required. We didn't know we were going to go through all of those injuries. Nobody could ever predict that. And because you can't predict what's going to happen, you have insurance in case a situation like that arises. Use the MLE. Get a backup big. If you do that, you put Josh Hart in his backup position where it makes sense. You put Achiuwa in a backup situation where he makes sense. The backup 4 spot right behind Julius Randle. And then if you get a legit big with the MLE and he can back up Mitchell Robinson, that's the roster that could potentially protect you, stay healthy enough to get to the trade deadline so the Knicks can make more moves, we can get even better, and then we can take this team all the way to the NBA Finals, especially if we're making the right moves. But to make the right moves, we need the assets. And in order to have an asset available to utilize, or at least an additional one, we need to use the money we have available right now. The clock is ticking. These free agents that remain available will not always remain available. Somebody else is going to sign them. They're going to think somebody's given up on them and they're going to sign in the EuroLeague or another league. The clock is ticking. New York does not have another move available on the table right now. Use the MLE. Get another player of impact on this team, another player that you can trade at the trade deadline. And that's how you help this team get better right now. Leon Rose and this Knicks front office, they know what they're doing. So I'm not questioning any of their decisions or their motivations. All I'm saying is tick-tock. That clock is ticking. We have the money. We have the open roster spot. We're clearly doing other moves. Let's make this final move. Complete our roster, get that additional big, and go into the season the right way. Not trying to makeshift the roster by putting Josh Hart in a situation or in a position that even though he can play it, he shouldn't. Same thing with Precious Achiuwa. Just because he can play backup center doesn't mean that he should. But what about you guys? What do you think about the Knicks announcing that they have used their final two-way roster spot on Jacob Toppin? Let me know in the comments section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.